Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam. There was a bit of an omission this week in that there was no episode of Life in the Movies podcast. That was because Jacob was traveling and couldn't sit down to record. I hope you made it safe travels, Jacob, if you are indeed watching this. But this video is going to be my cinema catch-up video for quarter one of 2023. However, this is my remake of the intro because I said that this was going up on a Wednesday when this is going to be going up Friday. So my apologies for that. The time just got away from me. That's on me.
Gentlemen, my bad.
Hopefully this cinema catch-up video more than makes up for it. So with that out of the way, let's get into the movies proper. First up is A Man Called Otto. This was directed by Mark Forster, and the movie starred Tom Hanks, and this is based on the book written by Frederick Bachman called A Man Called Ove. It tells a story of, well, a man called Otto, played by Tom Hanks. He's pretty much the neighborhood grump. He is always out and about. He's retired, though forcibly, and because he has worked in one job for so long, he needs to find things to do. And so he's basically the guy who walks around the neighborhood. He goes to all the HOA meetings. He pretty much is, like I said, the neighborhood grump, the neighborhood whiner, complainer, so on and so forth. But throughout the course of the movie, we see that there's a lot of reasons why he is the way that he is. And a lot of them are attached to the fact that his wife has recently passed away, and he is having some very dark thoughts. And his heart slowly begins to melt as his new neighbors basically win him over. I have actually read this book, and I greatly enjoyed this book. However, I was a little concerned that that this was being taken from Sweden to America. There was a little part of me that was a little worried. But I can safely say that this movie was a big old bowl of chicken soup for the soul. It made me warm and fuzzy inside, and overall, it was a really, really good time. First and foremost, Tom Hanks is Tom Hanks. He is really solid in here, and really, the key to nailing a book like this in movie form is to balance the trauma and the grumpiness of Ove, or Otto, as he is called. It's a delicate balance of not making him a cartoonish grump like the "get off my yard" kind of grump, but also recognizing that, yeah, he's grumpy, but he's not really a big fan of life right now. It's a very delicate balance, and I think the movie did a really good job of striking that balance. Because, yeah, Tom Hanks does a really good job of showing that Otto is the kind of guy to where you either live next to this guy or have met this guy. I work in a public library. I see at least 2 Ottos a day. The movie does a great job showing through flashbacks that there is a reason why Otto is now the way that he is. There is a lot of sadness in his life, and the only way he knows how to cover it up is to basically micromanage everything, to fall back on what he knows, his love of cars, his love of just being very OCD and on top of everything and doing everything himself, literally. His heart is very cold, and so over the course of the movie, you slowly see his heart start to become less cold and starting to open himself up more, especially when it comes to his new neighbor, specifically the wife of the family, and the 2 daughters. The wife played by Marina Trevino. I hope I'm saying the name right because she was awesome here. Meeting the other people in Otto's neighborhood, that was a lot of fun as well. His neighbors seem like genuinely nice people, and they're going through their own issues. But unlike Otto, they try and put on a brave face. They try to pick up their suffering and bear it to the best that they can possibly do so. And I think the movie communicated that very well. My lone real problem with the movie is some of the commentary. It's been a minute since I have read the book, so if this was in the book, then I will retract this. But there is a plot line in the movie involving a big real estate company trying to move everyone out of Otto's neighborhood, including Otto himself. They specifically have dirt on everyone, including various health problems, and they try to use it as leverage on the neighbors. It's especially non-subtle because the company's name is Die and America. Play the clip.
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I feel like they were going for some kind of rich real estate developer bad commentary, and it just felt entirely out of place. Again, if this is in the book, then, okay, fair enough. I apologize. But it just felt tacked on and just very, very sleepy. But overall, it's a small problem in the grand scheme. Like I said, this movie is a big bowl of chicken soup for the soul. I'm going to give it a great rating. I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I would. I took my mom to see it, and she loved it, though she loves Tom Hanks in general, so it was a pretty easy sell. But all told, I thought this movie was very well done. Plane was directed by, and I'm going to try and say this right, Jean-Francois Richet. Yeah, I'm going with that. And the movie starred Gerard Butler and Mike Colter. It tells the story of a pilot played by Butler he's a commercial pilot, and he is taking several people onto a regular flight. It's very business as usual. But then the plane has mechanical trouble and crashes on a fictional island that, yeah, you never would actively want to go to. It's very much a no-fly zone. And so it is up to this pilot and a hardened criminal played by Mike Colter to try and get them out of this situation and away from the terrorists that are inhabiting the island. It's pretty safe to say that when I saw the trailer for this movie, I basically saw it and thought to myself,
this is crap.
But my dad really wanted to see it, and I like going to see movies with my dad, so I went with him, and I was expecting to not really like it as much. But honestly, this movie is not like a grand piece of cinema that will go down in history forever. But I kind of dug it in that lizard brain action movie kind of thing. I think the biggest compliment that I can give to this movie is that it doesn't try to be anything more than it is. It's just an action movie, and it's a fun one at that. First of all, I'm fairly convinced that these are the movies that Gerard Butler is going to be doing for the remainder of his career. He doesn't do anything else. As a matter of fact, seeing him in like rom-coms that I've seen like on his IMDb page, I just say to myself, there is no way. That's got to be a genjutsu. But sure enough, he's been in so many of these movies that's pretty much his bread and butter. But that being said, he is a lot of fun in this, and he does do an admirable job. He is very much the workaholic pilot. Thankfully, he and his daughter in the movie are not like on the skids. They don't have a negative relationship. The daughter actually helps out the father on a couple of occasions, and that's cool to see. And so it's not like I hate you, Dad, why do you work so much? Which would have been completely cringe. Thankfully, it's not that. It's actually a positive relationship, despite the fact that his character works so often. Mike Colter is good as his as this prisoner. I'm rewatching currently the first season of Luke Cage, which I am reviewing with Jacob over on Life in the Movies podcast. Mike Colter is a severely underrated actor, especially in stuff like this. He looks the part, he talks the part, he walks the part. I hope that Mike Colter gets more work, whether it's in the MCU proper or in something else, because I think the dude is talented. And like I said, the movie is fun. It's very predictable. You know exactly what's going to happen. You walk into a movie like this with the title of Plane, probably the most generic action movie title ever, knowing full well what to expect. And it plays out exactly like you imagine. But I'm not made of stone. The movie's actually fun. There's several action scenes where I was like, okay, that was really cool. And there are several action scenes and moments where I was like, again, that was really cool. So, yeah, it's not going to go down in the annals of the greatest action movies of all time, but for what it is, I enjoyed it. I'm going to give it a good rating. It's one of those matinee Sunday watches that I recommend. Pool was directed by Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg, and the director of Possessor from 2021, and the movie starred Alex Skarsgård and Mia Goth, among others. It tells the story of a married couple. The husband is played by Alex Skarsgård, who go away to an isolated island for a romantic getaway. However, the couple get loaded with another couple on the island. They get really drunk, and, well, Alex Skarsgård runs over one of the locals with a car. Not great. It is a punishable offense by death to kill a local on this island, and so naturally, they're terrified that something bad is going to happen. But they basically pay a fine, they make a double of Alex Skarsgård, and the double gets killed. So, long story short, this island is a refuge for the super rich to basically do whatever they want. I really had no idea what I was walking into with this movie. I saw a trailer, one trailer, and I said to myself, this is either going to be really pretentious or this is going to be like The Shining, but on a deserted island. I had no idea. And so I went into it sort of blind, not knowing what to expect. And while I didn't love it, I respect this movie, if that makes any sense at all. It's very well made, but I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this movie ever again. Firstly, as I said in my John Wick Chapter 4 review, there is something about the Skarsgård family that just creates great actors, both Stellan, Bill, and Alex. And Alex Skarsgård is no different. And considering the fact that last year he was in one of my favorite movies of the year, The Northman, and he looked like this, going from this to basically the definition of a trophy husband, that takes serious range. And that is exactly what Alex Skarsgård's character is. He is pretty much the picture of a trophy husband. He hasn't really achieved much in life. He wrote a book that no one read. He's basically Stedman Graham, the longtime boyfriend of Oprah Winfrey. No one knows what he does, except for the fact that he is the boyfriend of Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey's longtime boyfriend, Stedman Graham, has written a new book called You Can Make It Happen, a 9-step plan for success. Step number 1, become Oprah Winfrey's boyfriend.
I'm slowly becoming convinced that Mia Goth is the new scream queen of this generation, because every time I have seen her in a horror movie, she has absolutely crushed it. I am so looking forward to Maxine, the third movie in Ty West's trilogy. But she is really good here. She is really creepy in certain scenes, and really, she gives them socks. She really rises above the material. In the hands of a lesser actress, it would have fallen flat on its face and died trying. But Mia Goth really carries it. And when I say this is a well-made movie I'll probably never see again, my reasoning is basically this. This is one of those very weird movies, meaning that there is imagery that just will make you go,
What?
It's all in service of the movie's overall message, in that these super rich people basically have more money than sense, or more dollars than sense, if you will. And so they're basically going to burn all of their cash, basically being lords of this island. And no one can do anything about it. That's commentary that has been done in movies before, and it's been done well. But I feel like because it is so crazy at points, it kind of loses me a bit. If you've seen the trailer, you have seen some of the freaky imagery, including Alex Skarsgård's double in that little, like, chamber thing getting ready to be killed, going, oh, like that. And you also see Alex Skarsgård's character on a dog leash in a scene. That's just the tip of the iceberg, I assure you. In some instances, this works. In other instances, it doesn't really work, and it borderlines on style over substance. I will give this a good rating, a high good rating. It is very well made and very well acted, and there are some moments that genuinely made me go, ooh, yeah, and definitely angered me. But I feel like it got a little high on its own supply and got a little too pretentious for its own good. Luther, the Fallen Son was released on Netflix, and it starred Idris Elba and Andy Serkis. And this is a continuation of the Luther series that was airing on BBC. It tells the continuing story of DCI John Luther, played by Idris Elba. From the TV show up to now, he's basically the detective who bends but does not break the rules. He's basically tasked with finding psychopaths and is willing to bend any rule in the rule book in order to get them and send them to prison. However, this track record has basically led him to being jailed himself, falsely accused of doctoring and intimidating witnesses, which in some cases he has done, but making them just far beyond the pale, by a mysterious benefactor / billionaire played by Andy Serkis and his weird hair. Basically, Andy Serkis in this movie has more dollars than sense. He basically finds the weaknesses of everyday people, what they're into in their free time, various secrets, little white lies. He uses them and exploits them for all that they're worth. And it's up to DCI Luther to break out of jail and bring him to justice. Full disclosure, I have not seen all of Luther, but what I have seen, I have absolutely loved. I love Idris Elba, period, but he is just on another level in this show / movie. He really is the best part of the movie. And really, you don't have to have been super familiar with Luther in order to understand where it's going. It's very much, it helps to know that John Luther is very much working in the gray area of the law. However, this feels very much like watching Sherlock Holmes' The Abominable Bride. It helps to know the context of the relationship between Holmes and Watson, but it's a story set in a vacuum. The woman who is trying to catch Luther and the serial killer at the same time is played by Cynthia Erivo, and she is really good as well. And their dynamic, there being Luther and this detective, is really, really good. Luther knows that by busting out of this jail, he pretty much has signed his own death warrant, or his warrant to be thrown in jail and never released, especially considering that he is a cop in a jail full of criminals that he has already locked up. So that's kind of awkward. But Luther knows full well that if he does not get this guy, then it's going to haunt him for the rest of his life. And speaking of which, let's talk about Andy Serkis, because good lord, Andy Serkis is having the time of his life in this movie. I struggle to see Andy Serkis beyond, say, Gollum or Caesar. He is so much into the mocap stuff that when I see him just as himself, it freaks me out a bit, because I'm like, that cannot be Andy Serkis. But sure enough, it is. And seeing him in like this, or the Avengers movies, or Black Panther, or even 13 going on 30 in that horrendous dye job.
Jesus!
Seeing Andy Serkis, not Gollum or Caesar, kind of freaks me out a little. But that doesn't change the fact that he is really good in this movie. And it's a really, I don't want to say irrelevant villain, but it has perchances of relevancy. It has little kernels of relevancy, if that makes any sense. If you ever need any more reason to buy a VPN, this movie is definitely that. I'm going to give this a great rating. I really enjoyed this movie. It's on my underrated for the year list. Even if you're not into Luther, I give this one a hearty recommendation. And let's cap things off with Cocaine Bear. This was directed by Elizabeth Banks. This is based on a true-ish story, and it tells the story of, well, a drug operation that drops a bunch of cocaine in a Georgia park, and a bear gets it. And it's basically a series of people trying to find this cocaine for one reason or another, and running into the bear, and it not going well for anyone. I remember when I first saw the trailer for this, I was just like, man, the Sci-Fi Channel is really scraping the bottom of the barrel, huh? But then when I heard that it was going to get a theater release, and that Kerry Russell, Alden Ehrenreich, O'Shea Jackson Jr., and Ray frickin' Leota was going to be in this, I was shocked. I was shook, as the kids say. But I gave the movie a decent chance, and the movie was entertaining. I don't think it's going to be on my top 10 of the year, but it's 1,000 times better than it had any right to be. Perry Russell is good. O'Shea Jackson Jr. was my favorite part. Really, the triangle between O'Shea Jackson Jr., Alden Ehrenreich, and Ray Liotta was some of my favorite parts of the movie. The chemistry between those three was really solid, and I was prepared going into this to being like, oh God, this is going to be Ray Liotta's last movie, isn't it? Because he sadly passed away. However, it seemed like he was having fun doing this, and it wasn't at all as bad as I was expecting it to be. Whenever the bear was on screen, it's very obvious that it's CGI, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great looking CGI at all. And again, I mean, when you have a story like this and you need the bear to do really bad things, you got to do what you got to do. But Great Caesar's Ghost, some of the CGI in this looked like it was really bad. But when I walked out of it, I had to shrug and say, I really liked it. I'm going to give it a good rating. Again, I don't think this is going to go on my favorite movies of the year list, but for a movie called Cocaine Bear, it was better than it had any right to be. But that is the end of my cinema catch-up review for the first quarter of 2023. I think as of this recording, my favorite movie of the year is still John Wick Chapter 4, followed closely by Creed 3, and I'm going to go with Missing, with Air coming in at number 4. It's been, honestly, a pretty solid month, or not a solid month, but a solid year for movies so far. Really, the only disappointing stuff has been like 65, and honestly, both Ant-Man and Shazam, those movies just did not hit with me at all. But it's still going to be a really long year, and this next quarter is shaping up to be pretty good as well. So I am looking forward to that. But what is your favorite movie of the year so far? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. And if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel, and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.